Hi, I'm Huw Thomas. I'm a partner at Carey Olsen in Jersey. I practice across a range of areas, including employment law and data protection, and what my partners politely call some of the weird stuff that we see. This is Carey Olsen's podcast, People, Behaviour and Governance, and it's a podcast about organisations, the people within those organisations and the way in which they behave. This is the first of two episodes that we're recording around International Women's Day. This is a slightly new location for us in that we're recording at the London Stock Exchange. In common with most law firms and professional services firms of every type, we've been thinking an awful lot about things like diversity, particularly gender diversity, and the way in which we can simply be better at things like getting more women into partnership and to senior levels within our organisation, and making our organisation a better one for everybody to work in. With that in mind, I'm delighted to be joined by our London managing partner, Jasmine Amaria. So welcome to the pod, Jasmine.
Thank you.
You're highly respected in your field by clients, by the various legal directories. But as the statistics show, you've made it through a fairly tough test because whilst women are very much represented highly at more junior levels within law firms, at partner level things do change. And according to the SRA, it's about 35% of partners are women. Do you think that's changing? Has that improved during your career, or is it something that's...
It's definitely changing. I think mindsets are changing. I think there are just more women in the workplace. There's less expectation around being a stay-at-home mother.
Yeah.
And I think women enjoy working. So things have definitely changed.
So in terms of your career story so far, how have you got here? What was your background?
So I guess sort of quite a boring sort of straight line to where I am, in the sense of I went to university to do law. I had a training contract at Slaughter & May. I stayed there for 10 years. I was at another firm for 11 years, and where I made partner. And then I joined Carey Olsen just over 5 years ago. So a very sort of, I've never done anything else particularly apart from work in a law firm.
And you practice in investment funds, sort of corporate and finance. What led you to that kind of area?
Yeah, not sure I should have ended up doing corporate necessarily. I wanted to be a lawyer since I was, I think, 9 years old. But for me, it was always about the justice side of it, the criminal side of it. I was very passionate about that, and I still am. I love sort of criminal documentaries and all the rest of it. But I think I just followed a path, I think, and I got swept into it. When I joined Slaughter & May, I really did enjoy the transactional side of work. I loved it. When I then ended up having my first child, I did think, how am I going to go back to this? I think for me, I just couldn't quite give up the client side of things, so which is why I ended up staying a lawyer rather than doing anything else.
And did you think of anything else? Was there
So quite interestingly, I didn't. Yeah. But my boss at the time, when I announced I was pregnant, it didn't necessarily expect me to continue wanting to be a lawyer, and offered me a position in their international relations team. And it was a really strange thing for me because I had no interest in doing anything other than being a transactional lawyer. But actually it showed their mindset at the time, which was that if you are having a baby, maybe you don't want to do these hours anymore.
Did he think he was trying to be helpful?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I don't think he realised quite how insulting
yeah.
it was at the time, especially because when I was pregnant, I was working from 7 a.m. till 3 a.m. on an IPO for the entire time I was pregnant. So I was very happy to do the work, but it was an expectation as to whether I would come back to do the same role.
That's fascinating. And was being a partner always the aim? Is that the...
No, I think when I had my daughter, I was unsure really quite how it would work. Would I be able to manage? What would happen? My husband was working, very long hours as an investment banker. I really wasn't sure. So I didn't know that I definitely wanted to be a partner. I think as time went on, and I saw people being made partner around me, and I thought, no, actually, I can do this. Why am I not a partner? That I then sort of really pushed for it. But I think when I was pregnant with her, I was just unsure how I would manage.
And was getting to partner straightforward, or was it?
Look, I think there has to be a realisation that there is an element of politics anywhere you go, for lack of a better word, and you have to understand that. So it wasn't completely straightforward, but I think part of it was my own insecurity, my own reluctance to say what I wanted and to push for myself. I was very unsure, really, that what people would think of me for saying I want to be a partner. So I didn't push for it quite as hard as I could have and should have. And possibly, I should have been a partner a year or two before I was.
Do you think that's reflective of the way that particularly women are brought up? They're not that ready to sort of push themselves? And
I think definitely. I think generations now, though, are getting better at it. But I definitely think my generation wasn't quite as good as we could have been, and we were shy to push ourselves forward. Definitely an element of, am I good enough for this? Will I be accepted? Am I able to do this job? Can I manage with the family and all the rest of it?
And did you have a mentor, or a sponsor, or an ally?
Not really. I always sort of think about this. I had two bosses, both called David, who had a massive impact on my life, but not really as mentors. They were great leaders, and my first boss, David, at Slaughters, I hugely looked up to him because he was just such a clever man. He was probably not a great boss in some ways, but he was brilliant. I learned a lot from him, and he was very supportive in some ways, but not quite as a mentor. My second boss, David, again, was fantastic, but not as a mentor. He was a great leader of people, fun, and I learned a lot from him, just in terms of how to bring people together.
So role models and teachers rather than sort of mentors.
Yes, and I think I've just learned a lot myself and had to do a lot by myself. I have had an incredible family support, though. That's the one thing that I just didn't. You can't replicate. My mother and father have been exceptional at helping me through, childcare and being very supportive, whilst at the same time also having these sort of stereotypical gender expectations that you can do both the working role and the stay-at-home role at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the next question about balancing personal and professional life. Is that more of a challenge for women still?
Oh, I think definitely. I mean, for me, I really struggled because I wanted to be this perfect mother. So I wanted to be a perfect employee, perfect lawyer, perfect partner, but I also wanted to be a perfect mother. And I would do ridiculous things like, want to bake my children's birthday cakes. Their birthdays are at Christmas time, so it was the busiest time at work, and I would stay up till 3-4 in the morning baking birthday cakes because I just thought that's what makes me a good mum, and I won't let them down. And it's just a ridiculous
in hindsight.
Thing that they're never going to remember that necessarily. But I think it was just this expectation of wanting to balance home, balance work. I can do it both. I can be perfect at both. And that's what I struggled with immensely.
Do you think you were setting impossible standards in both spheres?
Totally. Totally. And I don't think I'm the only person in the sense that, lawyers are generally perfectionists and want to be perfectionists. And I wanted to make sure that my children never missed me at home, but I also wanted to work. So yes, definitely a struggle in that.
And what about now you've made it? Did the challenges
I'm not sure what made it means.
Made it smart.
The challenges are just different.
Yeah.
What I always I think. And so, you have your team around you, your junior team around you, and they all have expectations of where they're going. They don't always realise that you also have expectations of what further there is to achieve for yourself. Yeah. And so you're thinking of them, you're thinking of yourself, you're thinking of your family. So, your children grow up. The challenges are different as they grow up. They need you sometimes more than they needed you as babies, actually. And there's that balance as well. So I think it's different, but still a massive challenge.
Yeah. And what about sort of junior lawyers in sort of our firm today, in today's firms? What do you think, they view, say your career path as? Is that something to aspire to? Is it?
I've been told by some people, I don't want to be you. They've been very honest about that. They look at me and they don't think that they necessarily want that life. I think there's definitely much more of a work-life balance. There is definitely offshore. Yep. It may not be so much onshore. The working from home thing has made things easier. Yep. But there are still challenges. And I think the one thing I would reiterate to everybody time and time again is there is no substitute for hard work. So there are always going to be challenges. There are opportunities. So in the way that, I guess, stereotypical gender expectations when I was growing up is that even though your husband may be working, you as a woman take on the lion's share of the domestic chores, isn't so much the case now. So I think for junior females in particular, that is great that there isn't that expectation that you just do it all.
So that broader cultural changes
absolutely
beginning to feed through into.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And do you think there's ever a complete answer to sort of managing those different parts of your life, or is there always going to be that tension?
There's always that tension, and I think when you accept that, you're happier about it. You just deal with it. But I think if you have this unrealistic expectation that there is that you can have it all, you can't have it all.
And do you think that's a message that women still are fed, that you can have it all?
I think definitely now the message is changing.
Yeah.
But only recently. Up till very recently, we were told you could have it all, whatever that means. But no, you can't have it all. And once you accept that, you will be happier and much more able to deal with it yourself.
Yeah. Is it about resilience, do you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. You have to be tough. Yeah. You have to be tough in this job. You have to be able to deal what is thrown at you. Man or woman, I don't think it matters. It's a tough industry. I think, the financial world is a tough industry. It doesn't necessarily be, you have to be a lawyer.
Yeah. So, those statistics we covered, quite sobering. Do they chime with your experience? Historically, did you find the workplace sort of male-dominated at the top?
I think so. I didn't really focus on it too much, I guess. When I joined Slaughter and May, I think it was pretty 50-50 male-female.
That's interesting.
Pretty much, I'm sure. So in terms of the trainee cohort, didn't notice anything at all. Yep. You definitely noticed it at partner level, though. There were very few female partners. I think even at that time, there were very few female partners with children. So again, the message was quite a mixed message of even if you make it, can you have a family?
Yeah. And are things getting better? Do you think we've cracked it?
I'm not sure we've cracked it, but it's definitely whatever that means. But yes, no, it's definitely getting better. Yep. There are just more expectations around women working now. I think.
And what are the main barriers today for, say, women wanting to make partner?
Themselves. I think it absolutely categorically themselves now. I think every organisation, if they take on a female lawyer who wants to be a partner, I don't think any organisation will have the attitude of you can't be a partner because you are female or because you have some other, situation and you're not a man. It will be purely down to the female in a lot of cases, themselves, hampering themselves, not believing in themselves, not having the confidence, or not being able to, manage for whatever reason, or you come to an agreement with your family, that's how you want it to be run. I think it's down to the person themselves.
In terms of how we talk to women about confidence and the importance of confidence, do you think we get that messaging right?
I think sometimes we don't talk about it enough. Yeah. I think we shy away from it. We sometimes don't realise that certain behaviours, male or female actually, will be about confidence or lack of confidence. And sometimes actually you will assume somebody's arrogant, but it may be actually a lack of confidence that's coming through.
So you see that a lot in employment law.
And actually that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so it's spotting that and having the ability to have that conversation. It's a really difficult conversation, but actually maybe to feed back in a more delicate way, whether it's through their mentor or through the work that they do, to actually feed back and say, that was a really good job, and to build up confidence.
Do you think we're honest enough about, with sort of junior lawyers, say, about a legal career and its challenges, how it might end, where it might go?
No,
do you think
I don't think it's a really difficult one. I think people are scared to be blunt. I think people are worried that if I am blunt, will this mean I'm telling them something they don't want to hear? And actually,
possibly,
is that
I'd need to hear it.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing for the organisation? So I think sometimes people just shy away. Leaders just shy away from it.
Yeah.
I am very honest to the extent that I can be. I always think this is somebody's career and they have a right to know what is going on, what people think of them, what their manager thinks of them. So to the extent I can feed back, whether it's positive or negative, I like to, but I don't think we're always good at that.
So we're recording this episode on the day of our event with Dr. Eliza Furby. And she talks a lot about generational diversity, about expectations and outlook and that sort of thing, through from baby boomers to my generation, Generation X, obviously the coolest, to millennials and Generation Z, and now something ghastly called Generation Alpha. Do you think there's a real difference between generations in terms of their outlook and expectations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I think at least my generation, and definitely the way my parents brought me up, was to accept. So my father was very honest with me about, you are a woman, you are Indian, and it's going to be very tough.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, whilst I railed against the fact that he told me that, actually he did me a favour, because it was in my head, I knew it, and I could challenge it and get on with it. I could just accept that there was a challenge and I could get on with it. I think there is a slight expectation now of, I'm entitled to be a partner, or, there is a flexibility around this and working from home. And there is a lot of that, which is very different from my time.
Yeah.
And the working pattern is different. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. It is just different.
Yes.
But I think sometimes I wish that there was a little bit more of an acceptance of, you know what, actually, there is no substitute for working hard, and I have to do that. The one point I would really make around all of this, whatever generation it is that not everything bad that happens is because you are a woman. Sometimes things don't work for whatever reason.
Yep.
It isn't just down to the fact you're a woman. And I think it's really important to remember that, because otherwise it can colour your judgment and decision-making around your own career.
And I suppose make you very bitter and likely to disengage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's interesting. So we've got these issues as a profession and no doubt as a firm. So we've got the gender pay gap, we've got lack of senior women, we've got lack of intergenerational fairness, although that one's open to debate. Why is it important to us as a business to get it right and to address it?
I think it's not just around females. I think it's a general question around diversity. And we just need a diverse group of lawyers within the organisation, both at senior level and junior level, whatever that, whatever level it is. But really, it's around what different people can bring to an organisation and their different creativity, their different skill sets. I always think, the world is getting smaller in some ways. Globalisation has actually made the world smaller. We are travelling to places we would never have thought about going to. And actually, I often think there's such a huge cultural element to that. If you don't have the right people working in your organisation, actually, different parts of the world aren't going to want to interact with you because culturally you don't fit with them. But actually you go, all these banks have places everywhere, for example, and they have the right fit of people, because of the cultural aspects of it. And I think, we have to do the same. We have to have the right people with a different skill set, working on different matters, bringing different things to each job.
That's going to be quite challenging, isn't it, in terms of the desire and willingness to change on our part, isn't it?
It is, but I think, I would definitely think, London is a great place for, our office is a very diverse office. The London office is incredibly diverse, and I think, we all bring something different to Carey Olsen, all of us, and we all have a different fit, and I think that's what makes it brilliant. But yes, it is challenging. It's not a straightforward answer to anything, and the hiring aspect is different. I think people also have to understand that, whilst we want Jersey and Guernsey to be diverse, traditionally the hiring aspect of it has been hard.
It's a tricky one.
Has been hard. So you can't expect things to change just dramatically overnight.
So what does work in terms of making it better?
I think having open, honest conversations. I think making sure that the right people are promoted. Making sure that you are having conversations with females in terms of their expectations. Where do they want to go with their career? Are they achieving what they want to achieve? Or have they got the support from the firm that they need? So whilst, a lot of people talk about family support for childcare reasons, are we as a firm supporting you enough to help you work the hours you need to work? Because you do need to work, and just because somebody doesn't have a child doesn't mean they need to pick up the slack for you. But actually, what does it mean for us supporting you? We need to have those conversations and be very open.
And what's the best way to have those conversations? Is that a management conversation? Is it a mentoring conversation? Is it a...
I think it's both.
Is it both?
I think it's both. And I think we shouldn't be shy to have those conversations with people. We should just say, are you managing? How are things? Tell me, what can we do to make things better for you? If they're fine, they're fine. But if you're struggling, what can we do to make things better?
And who should be having those conversations? Is that a partner thing, or is it a
partner
HR
thing? It's definitely a partner thing. But I think if an associate feels they can't speak to their partner, they should find somebody they can speak to, because it really is important to get the message out there. And I don't believe there's any partner at Carey Olsen, I really don't, that won't want to listen to somebody struggling.
And do you think mentoring, and we've just launched a mentoring scheme, do you think it'll help with that process?
Definitely. I mean, I think mentoring is amazing, and I really wish I'd had a mentor in some ways, a female who had achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I think it is something that will help the younger generation, I guess, vent their frustrations and put out their challenges and what they want to achieve in a safer space. Without having to go to a partner that they're scared of, for example. Maybe not at Carey Olsen. To achieve what they want to achieve.
Because I mean, in my view, it's one of the best things about mentoring. It gives more junior people the ability perhaps to vent at somebody more senior in a scenario that's not going to be career limiting.
Exactly.
And it's going to give them confidence to actually have that conversation.
Exactly.
What can men add to the process?
I think men shouldn't be shy to be part of the conversation, and I know there are some who won't be. There are others who will shy away from it, who will worry that they're a man and they've got nothing to add to the female conversation.
Yeah.
But actually, they've got everything to add.
And a lot of the time, it's those guys that you want to hear from.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and they're the ones who are supportive. Like I say, the two bosses I have looked up to have both been male bosses, and it's not that there weren't females there. They were just two men I really did look up to for being great leaders in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think that is exactly what men can bring. Just a different skill set. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to have the conversation around childcare, etc., or they don't have to always be that sort of softly approach. It can just be, we're here for you.
Yeah.
You know, how are things going with your career? What can I do to help? It is just being part of that conversation.
And what do women need to bring to that process?
I never realised actually how supportive a female network can be till I joined Carey Olsen. So in particular, you know, I have to say Kate Andrews, Nettie have been amazing when it comes to supporting me. Karen Lacroix as well. I mean, they have all been incredible. I'd never had that before. And I think if we can replicate what they have given to me, and that's me as a partner already,
Yeah.
To others down the firm, I think, you know, you're giving a really strong female supportive network. I really do.
That's interesting. And one final question. If you could meet yourself at the beginning of your career, what would you tell yourself, do you think?
I think I would have said had a little bit more fun. I think I took myself really seriously. But I think, again, it was because I was just scared of letting myself go in any way, and I just had this career and I had to work really hard. And I think I wish I had sometimes just taken a breath and enjoyed just being the lawyer I was. You know, actually, Slaughter and May was an incredibly hard time, but in some ways, that camaraderie you get amongst your trainee group of people, you can never replicate that feeling. And it's amazing. And I wish I'd enjoyed that a little bit more. You know, loved working hard, but I wish that I just had a little bit more fun, I suppose.
Fantastic. Well, Jasmine Amaria, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Huw.
I think it's fair to say that every firm is grappling with this. And we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We're probably closer to the beginning of some of those journeys than we are to the end. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, at least we're on the journey, I think is the message. But as I say, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.